Also, for starters, how do I pronounce your name? Hello, can you hear me?
Hello? Oh, yes.
Yeah, I was asking for starters, how do I pronounce your name?
You can call me Duratul Aisha.
Duratul. That's a very nice
Yes.
name, I must say. That's a very nice name. Okay. One thing is, again, another thing that I want to clarify with you before we actually discuss the syllabus. There's been a few changes within in the syllabus, but that's dependent on two things. The first one is region. So if your region is not, I think, 3 or 2, then your syllabus hasn't changed. And the second thing it depends on is when your registration is done. So I am going to explain to you what the current syllabus, but there is a chance that might change, but I don't think it's changing for your region. However, if that's the scenario, there are only minor changes, so it's okay. We're going to cover it either ways. Um, right. Okay. So, okay, amazing. So we've got, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to look at the syllabus outline. We're going to look at the past paper types, and then we're going to look at our first chapter, which is going to be research methods. Okay. First thing you need to understand is what is psychology in the simplest of words, in order to understand if you're actually interested in whatever we're studying. So when you're looking at psychology, you are studying human psyche. Now there is a difference between the human brain, because that is going to come under biological, because brain is part of your body and you can only study it through biology. But as far as your psyche is concerned, that's your cognitive abilities. That is the basically the way you are thinking and how that thinking is affecting your behavior. So that is the whole process of how your psyche works, how your mental um, mechanisms work. How are you thinking? How are you transforming that thinking into behaviors? And that is the whole idea behind psychology. And when we look at AS syllabus, it is very summarized in the sense that we are just looking at 4 different aspects of our thinking and our behavior. The first one is social, which basically means how we are acting within a society. Are we affected by the society, or are we implementing our own rules and regulations? Are we affected by the norms of the society? So everything related to psychology, everything related to human and the society is coming under social approach. Then there is the learning approach. So within a society, how do you learn? Because every single human being learns something and they interpret it in a certain way. So how is that procedure happening? That is another thing that you will be looking at. The third thing is cognitive, which is basically how are you thinking? What is motivating you to think in a certain way? How is your how are your thoughts recorded within your brain? How do your thoughts affect your behavior? Again, coming under psychology. And then the last one is biology, and that basically biological, basically. So that talks about how psychology and biology are related, how physiology, which is basically natural or biological aspects, are related to psychological aspects. So how you thinking or taking stress mentally will affect you physically. That's all going to come under biological approach. Are we getting a little idea?
Oh, yes.
Amazing. So when I look at the first we're going to look at the debates. So every single time that you start any syllabus, be it AS syllabus, be it A2 syllabus, be it AQA, be it Pearson Ed Excel, even if you choose psychology as a majors, you will need to know a few issues and debates. The few issues and debates are basically wait, let me just right, they start here. Okay, key concepts, they're under the key concepts heading. The first one is nature versus nurture, which is something very integral and something you need to remember throughout your syllabus, throughout your approach to psychology. What does nature and nurture refer to? What are all the things that are naturally given to us? So me, Musfira, when Musfira was born, she had a hearing ability, she had a sight ability, she could feel. Okay, all of these things were naturally given to her. She was given a brain, she was given the ability to think. but she couldn't think, right? So she was a baby, she couldn't think, but she was given the ability. So all of those things that are naturally given to you, that are innate, that are biologically just given to you, those are coming under nature. Compared to nurture are things that you develop throughout your life. When you grow, you develop these things. Okay, so that is nurture. So for example, if Musfira as a baby had the ability to touch things, that is nature. But Musfira's nurture aspect would be to learn what to touch and what not to touch. So I now know that I cannot touch, let's say, a toilet, right? And at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
I know that I can touch a stuffed toy, right? So that is coming under
Mm-hmm.
nurture, because that is something that I learned. So that's the first debate that you will know in psychology. Moving ahead, we have ethics and psychological research. So every single time now, how do you do these how do we know if a thing is true, or how do we basically study psychology, is through theory. So there is a psychologist who comes up with a theory, which could be, let's say, this psychologist might just say that, whatever you think actually happens. Or many psychologists do say that. Or maybe a psychologist can say whatever you dream actually comes true, right? So that is a theory, that is something that they're just claiming. But then they do a research in order to prove it. Every psychologist has to do a research in order to prove their theory. So I'm not sure, but there was this very recent movie called Oppenheimer. Did you get a chance to watch it?
No, not yet.
Okay, not yet. If when you are going to watch it, so you will know. I'm not going to ruin it for you. No spoilers, but you will know that the Oppenheimer himself had a theory which he basically proved, because he was a physicist, right? So similarly,
Mm-hmm.
psychologists, they have theories and they have to prove it through psychological research. However, when they are conducting this research, when they're conducting a study or an experiment or a questionnaire or a survey, anything that they're conducting in order to prove their theory, they have to keep in mind some ethics. So even when we sit or go to a person's house, go to a friend's house, a family friend's house, anyone's house, we have a few ethics that we need to remember. Like our mom tells us to always sit straight, that's coming under moral ethics. So similarly, when you're conducting psychological research, there are ethics that you need to remember, which we will get into. But it basically includes informed consent, which is basically taking permission; confidentiality, which is basically not revealing any names, not revealing any personal details. Then there's the right to withdrawal, which basically means that allowing participants to leave the experiment as soon as they want to leave it. And all of those things, again, there are 6 in total. We're going to look at them. Choice of psychological research methods is another thing that you will always look at when you are studying the syllabus, which is basically that whenever a psychologist wants to conduct a research, they choose a certain method to do it. So as I was giving you examples, they might conduct an experiment, they might conduct an observation, they might conduct a survey. And when they are doing all of these things, they have to plan it accordingly. And so they need to choose accordingly. So for example, if they have a survey, or if they have thousands of people that they're studying, they can possibly not do an experiment. 1,000 people won't fit in a lab room, so they can't do a laboratory experiment. They will have to go with, let's say, questionnaires or surveys, because you can actually give a survey to 1,000 people, you can send it to them online. So they need to, psychologist, or you as someone who is learning about psychology, need to know what research method to choose and when to choose it, which obviously we will understand through our syllabus. Okay, this is not important, neither is it going. Now we have relevance to contemporary society. Basically means how is it relevant to our lives. So with each study we will talk about how is it relevant, how is it applicable to our lives. So if the first study is always going to be Milgram, so when I study Milgram, I will have to look at how is it Milgram applicable to my life as a human being in Pakistan or Dubai or UAE or UK, wherever I'm at. Okay, are we clear till here?
Ah, yes.
Okay, just give me 1 second. Are you joining from another ID?
No.
Okay, okay. There's someone in the waiting room, so I'm just sending a photo to sir because I'm not sure who this is. So let me just check for 1 second.
Uh,
Okay, right. So moving ahead, we're looking at the content. This is for A2. We do not need it yet. Okay, paper one is going to be approaches, issues, and debates, which basically means it is going to be more about your learning. Okay, so whatever you learn from the studies, that is going to be tested in this. So there are 12 studies in total, which you will be studying. It seems like a lot, it's not. It is going to make sense when you actually study and you've got time. So we are going to do everything, including past papers, and even we are even going to look at other references to make it interesting for ourselves. So there are at least 3 studies which are really, really, really boring. So for me as a teacher as well, they're really boring to teach. So I will make us look at a few videos, few interviews, which actually make you interested. For like, there's this study called Pepperberg. It's about a parrot. So it gets really annoying to study a parrot because we're just like, we can't study ourselves, but we have to study a parrot. So for that, our way to go about that is going to be that Pepperberg is basically the psychologist, and she was a woman who did not get permission to conduct a study for 10 years, and she fought through that. So her story is way more interesting than what the parrot does. So we are going to make that study interesting by looking at Pepperberg's story as well, and looking at this interview that that psychologist did, where she explained her whole study in like 5 minutes. And that just makes it so much easier to understand and so much more interesting, because it's like a woman who fought through her way. So that makes the study about a parrot way more interesting. So we're just gonna go through it depending upon what is interesting, what's not interesting, and then we're going to go to past papers, of course. So that is so first paper is always about your learning aspect of it, and the second paper is about research methods. Research methods is more about like, you as a psychologist, how would you act in certain situations. That is the easiest way for me to explain you research methods, because the first chapter is research methods, and in the paper itself, in paper 2 itself, they talk more about how what would you do, what would Alan do, what would Susan do. Now these are all fictional characters that they will make, and you have it's more practical. It is not a lot of learning, it is more practical, where you will have to understand and give the answer yourself, or predict the results yourself. We're not going to get into paper 3 and 4 because right now we're just doing AS. Paper 3 and 4 are both A2, and those are again about specialist options, but the AS syllabus is just those 12 studies with research methods. Right. um, okay, now I'm just going to go through the whole syllabus, and I am going to explain. I'm going to give a brief summary about each study, what it is about, and what they actually find out, so that you right now can also know that, okay, I'm so excited to study this one. So there will be each study in each section, which may make you realize that, okay, yeah, I am really excited to study this one. So, okay. Do we have any questions till now?
Oh no.
Okay, amazing. Right. We have got, so okay, so the first approach is biological. Now, one thing is that I will start from social, then I will go for learning, then I will go for cognitive, then I will go for biological. Why will I do this? Because these three are, let's say, difficulty level 4, these three are difficulty level 3, these three are difficulty level 2, and these three are difficulty level 1. Now I don't know why they did it this way, like they went opposite. They went from difficulty level 4 to difficulty level 1, but I feel like that's because they wanted the difficult part to go away first. However, the problem with that is that when you, because it is a new subject for most students, and you have to do research methods first, it becomes really difficult to apply and learn so many things, because research methods in itself is a lot of understanding proportion. So when you're doing research methods, that which is the first chapter before any of the studies, you actually should be able to apply. So we will always start with the easier studies in order to understand where we can apply certain things. That's why I go opposite rather than starting from biological. And by the time we reach biological, it's a piece of cake for us, because we are basically feeling like psychologists ourselves, and we already know half the syllabus. So there is this huge confidence level where we're just, where we're rocking it. So that's why we'll go opposite way. However, right now I'm just going to start explaining from biological. So as I explain, biological approach figures out what is the relationship between psychological aspect of it, what is the relationship between a human psyche and a human's body. How is a human's body affected by the way that they think, or how, by the way that their psyche works. The first study is Conley over here, which is talking about brain scans and emotions. So the Conley basically talks about this. So the hypothesis or the prediction was that people, like the theory itself was that people remember things that are traumatizing for longer. So I will remember an accident for way longer than I will remember a prize distribution ceremony. So they said that things that are traumatizing, or things that are aggressive, or things that are very disgusting to look at, you will remember them for a longer time. And that is what they did. They took brain scans, and they took a test of emotions, and they saw that people, if they saw something disgusting or they saw something traumatizing, let's say a picture full of, people dying, or a picture full of blood, they would remember that for longer compared to a picture of a balloon or a picture of an ice cream. So that is what Conley said, that this is what happens, that your emotions will will be heightened when something is more traumatizing, and it stays that way, and your brain is affected by that. Are we clear with the concept that we're going to study?
Yes.
Amazing. And then we have Dement and Gleitman, which is sleep and dreams. Dement and Gleitman talk about your eye movements, and they say that you, within your brain, when you're sleeping, your brain works. So there's two periods of sleep. One is REM, one is NREM. Okay, REM basically stands REM. Okay, REM stands for rapid eye movement, and NREM stands for non-rapid eye movement. So Dement and Gleitman said that there are two types of sleep. One is REM, one is NREM. When you are in REM sleep, which means your eyes are moving rapidly while you're sleeping, that's when you are dreaming. And when you're in NREM, that's when you're not dreaming. Okay. So they said that you need to differentiate. We want to differentiate between these two sleeps, and these two types of sleep. And we want to see that which one will affect a human more, or which one will make their eyes move rapidly. So again, whatever's going in your head, will it affect your body? So eye will be a part of your biological being, your brain is a part of your psychological being. This is one of the most interesting studies, because you will be able to apply it to your real life, because there are dreams that are discussed, such as, I don't know if you have this dream, but it's a very universal dream, where some days you just feel like you fell in your dream and you wake up like that, or you just, in your dream only you try to save yourself, you pull up your legs or whatever. So that's basically what this kind of stuff that they talk about. So hence it gets very interesting. Then we have Schachter and Singer. Schachter and Singer talk about two-factor theory of emotion. Two-factor theory, so they basically say that person's emotions are affected by their surroundings. So if I am really 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 happy, but I am sitting in between four individuals who are really 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 sad, I'm also going to become sad, because I will adapt to their behavior. Or if I'm really 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 sad, but the people around me are so hyper and so happy, I will adapt to their behavior and start acting like that as well. And let's say I'm fine, I'm like normal happy, but someone is instigating me and trying to make me angry, that is going to happen, because of the two factor theory of emotion, which basically means that you adapt from your surroundings. So you have, and then you basically, when you see something happening, you will think of a cognitive label for that thing. So for example, if I see two people fighting, I'm going to look at the thing in my head, I'm going to search what is the word for this thing, what am I feeling right now. And then once my brain answers to me, I'm going to be like, okay, yeah, I'm anxious, and I am anxious because those two people are fighting. So basically it talks about how your body will respond to your mental thinking based on what is happening in your surroundings. So if your surroundings are sad, your body will become sad too, and hence your brain will start thinking in that sense as well. Are we clear till here? Okay. Then we have cognitive. Cognitive is to do, again, to do with your thinking skills, your thinking process. The first one that we'll be covering is Andrade. Andrade will talk about how when you're doodling is basically drawing objects. We do that every single time in class, in the classroom. And Andrade says that doodling actually helps you focus. People believe that doodling actually helps to takes their focus away. They get distracted. But Andrade wanted to prove that doodling will actually help you focus. It will help you stay alive and stay alert. So that's what he was studying. Then we have Baron Cohen. Baron Cohen is a little complicated, but it is interesting in the sense, if you actually want to pursue psychology in the future, Baron Cohen gives you an insight on ADHD kids. So people who have autism, Baron Cohen is the study about people who have autism compared to people who are normal. So he wanted to show how the thinking process or the cognitive mechanisms of people with autism are way different than normal people who do not have autism. And then we have Laney. Laney is talking about false memory, which basically means Laney talked about how you can actually fidget with your cognitive mechanism, you can change the way people think. So Lainey said that you can implant a false memory. So false memory, for example, I can tell a kid that when you were young, so let's say for example, I'm going to use my own example and a very honest example. So I do not eat eggs, okay, and I'm the kind of person who works out a lot, okay. So my even my trainer or my mom, they're always like, you need the protein, so please eat eggs. But I can't stand eggs. I vomit, right? So my mom always keeps telling me that when you were young, you used to love eggs, okay. Now that I don't remember if I used to love eggs, for all I know, she could be just, just messing with me. And for a lot of years I believed her, and I was like, really, really? So I was, I kept thinking, "Okay, if I used to love them, why don't I like them now?" And I kept trying to eat them. Every single time I used to puke, but I kept trying because my mom used to tell me that you used to love them. So I was like, how do I suddenly not love them, right? And then my dad told me that your mom's just lying to you. You hated them since the beginning. So it was a false memory that she implanted in my head just so I eat them. So this is what Laney is also going to do. He is going to check if you can implant a false memory in people's head. And that was his theory, that yes, you can. You can tell them that they like to eat a certain thing. However, that never happened with them. And that is actually very true. It was very relatable for me. However, it's a very confusing study. Not going to lie to you. It is a confusing study, but it is also, you also get shocked at some point that what? You can actually do that? So yeah, that way it's interesting. Are we clear till here?
Yes, yes.
Amazing. Then we've got learning. Learning is again, how do we learn in a society? Because there's so many human beings, and not all of them are going to learn the same exact thing in the same exact way. So everybody has a different approach. Bandura is about child aggression, and it talks about how if you leave children with aggressive individuals, they will look up to those aggressive individuals and start acting like that. So Bandura talks about aggression, and it talks about leaving younger kids who can get manipulated and sorry, yeah, they yeah, so they can get manipulated, and they will start getting aggressive. So they learn from their surroundings. Whoever they look at, when they look at their role model or they look at an adult doing a certain thing, they will get affected by it and start acting the same way. Then we have Saavedra and Silverman, which is about button phobia, which talks about Saavedra and Silverman talks about the fact that a phobia is not always something that you are born with. A phobia can be something that you learn, and not just learn but also can unlearn. So if you have a phobia for heights, it is something that you might have learned. It is something traumatic might have caused it to you, and you can now unlearn it. You can forget about it as well, and you can be normal with it. So that is what they're going to do. They have a kid, a 5-year-old kid who is scared of buttons, and he learned that phobia. So when he was born, he was not scared of buttons. But when he turned 9, he developed this phobia, this huge phobia of buttons, and then he actually unlearns it and gets okay with buttons. So that's the whole procedure that they're going to talk about. There's Pepperberg. This is about the parrot one. So it talks about how species like parrots can also learn behavior from their surroundings, from what they're taught. And they are going to tell us about how parent can learn how to speak or guess or look at objects and guess their name or tell their name right. Then we've got social, and that is basically how from your surroundings you learn. The first study, Milgram, is amongst all 12 studies the most interesting one, and the most repetitive one, in the sense that it is always questioned in your CAI examinations. They will always ask you something about Milgram. There is no way that they don't. It is everybody's favorite study. And in psychology as a whole, even if you go for your majors, you will always do Milgram no matter what syllabus you choose, because Milgram is one of the most proper studies in psychology. It is about how Milgram was a Jew, and he was motivated by his concept of World War II to conduct a study where he talked about how within a society you will harm others if an authoritative figure will ask you to do so. If a police officer is going to ask me to push someone else because he is an authority, I will do it. Knowing that the push will harm the other person, I will still do it. So, for example, if my teacher asks me, because remembering that she is in an authoritative position, if she asks me to go and tear a book for my friend, I know it's going to harm my friend, but I will still go and do it. Why? Because she is an authority figure. So Milgram tried to study why would we do that. So it was very interesting, and it was related to World War II, and that's what we're going to start with. So you're going to understand it then, but he wanted to see that within the society what affects you to be disobedient, this destructively obedient, that you will harm others but you will still abide by something that an authority figure is telling you to do. We have Pilyavin, which is about subway Samaritans, which basically means who people will help and who people will not help in a society. So there are types of people that others will help, and there are types which we will completely ignore. So for example, they will talk about, I'm going to give the same example. So they talk about how we are more likely to help someone who is old with a stick in their hand compared to someone who is young with an alcohol bottle in their hand. We'll be like, okay, that's their own fault, they're not even alive enough. Then we have Yamamoto, it's about chimpanzees. So, like, we have two studies which are about animals. Chimpanzees, they are talking about how chimpanzees are also affected by their surroundings and by their society, and they will learn helping behavior through their surroundings and society. Are we clear till here?
Yes.
Okay, then we have the application, like I talked about the relevance in the beginning. This is basically the debates. We will apply each of these studies to our normal life, to our contemporary society. We have individual versus situation explanation. This is something that I will explain when we are doing the studies. Otherwise, right now it's going to confuse you. Nature versus nurture, we already looked at. The use of animal and the use of children is basically, again, ethics. So with animals you have to be more careful, again with children as well you have to be more careful. So there are certain guidelines that you have to follow when you are using children or animals for your research. Clear till here?
Yes.
Amazing. So I don't want to burden on the first day. If because you didn't even, I don't think you had a demo with me. So we won't count this class. If you don't want it counted, I won't even put the attendance for it, but I just want you to understand the background so you know what you're getting yourself into, and at the same time so you can see through it and be prepared for it. I don't want to informationally burden you right now. I will eventually start the syllabus from the next class, and I am going to start with research methods only. But for now, I just wanted you to get a good grasp on what we're going to cover. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm not going to mark this class, neither will it be marked holistically for all of your classes. This is, let's just say, this is our free, nice demo sessions where we got to know each other.
Okay.
Okay, so I know our regular schedule is going to stay the same, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Okay, I'm so sorry. I actually thought you were starting next week. So I had a few things. I had a few things this week which I have moved for next week. So it's gonna stay the same. But for this week, I'm sorry, I moved an hour over here, and I am going to take Thursday's class on a Friday because I have being very honest with you, I actually have a basketball match because I play basketball on a national level, so I can't really leave it. If it was a team match, I
Oh.
would. Yeah. So yeah, so I have to play
Mm.
for, let's say, my region, my city, so I can't really leave it. So that's why I'm just gonna take the class on Friday this week. Other than that, it's gonna stay Tuesday, Thursday, and no changes will be made, inshallah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And if you have any other questions, please go ahead and ask. I am right here. Hi, can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
I said,
Actually,
yeah.
yeah, it's quite lacking.
Can you repeat what you're saying? You're lagging a little bit.
Yes. No. My internet connection aren't that good.
Okay, okay, okay. That's okay. But if you have any questions, I was saying you can ask me. If you don't, if your internet's bad right now, you can ask me on WhatsApp as well. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so, so, so much.
Okay.
Bye.